All right, no more messing around. I want to see what max published 38 special plus P load data has to offer me. I chickened out a little bit with my first video, but these 38 specials are going to be loaded in a 357 Magnum rated LCR, so no more half measures. This is going to be a quick one as just a follow-up to my last 38 special video, so here's the plan. We're going to use 125 grain and 110 grain XTPs, and then some 110 grain speared gold dot bullets. We got accurate number 5, HP 38, and I did break down and grabbed a bottle of CFE Pistol. I didn't need another bottle of pistol powder, but whatever, I can use it for 9 mil and 45 ACP when I start reloading that in the future. It's going to be cold for the next 4 months or so I'm going to mostly be doing indoor range pistol shooting for a little bit. For the 125 grain XTPs, we got 5.7 grains of HP 38 or Winchester 231 per the Hornady book. And then for CFE Pistol, we're looking at the Hodgdon Reloading Data Center, and for that, for regular pressures, they list 5.4 to 6.3 grains. And then at plus P pressures, they list 6.4 grains as the max. So I'm going to make up two loads, 6.1 and 6.4 grains. Now I'm going to hold off on using those Winchester Silvertip rounds I grabbed just to see, I want to see what this data gives me first to see what my best powder is going to be. I'm planning on working up a defensive load using those with some fanciful nickel-plated brass. I bought a bag of 38 special nickel-plated brass because I am just getting sick of sorting my 357 and 38 special separately. And I know the nickel-plated brass is maybe supposed to be a little bit more prone to cracking, but I figure at 38 special pressures it's going to be maybe a little less likely to do that. Then for the 110 grain bullets, we got 6.3 grains of HP 38 or Winchester 231 and 8.4 grains of accurate number 5. Both of these values are from the Hornady book. For the Spear 110 grain gold dots, they list a more conservative published maxes of 7.9 grains of accurate number 5 and 5.6 grains of Winchester 231. I'm going to stick with those for now, even though they're a bit more conservative than the Hornady numbers are. I want to see what velocities I end up getting with these, and I will always have the option of bumping up the charges in the future. Spear makes these bullets, so I'm going to follow their numbers for their bullets. For CFE Pistol and 110 grain bullets, the Hodgdon Reloading Data Center has this as being a very high velocity powder. They list regular pressure at 6.5 to 6.8 grains, and then plus P up to 7 grains with the Hornady XTPs. Now that's a pretty tight load range, and that does worry me a bit, so we're only going to stick with the XTPs with these numbers. And I mostly want to do this just to give me a direct comparison between this HP 38 and accurate number 5 loads, all at book published velocities with, no extrapolation to other bullet types or anything like that. Now, if I do notice a good jump with CFE Pistol compared to HP 38 and accurate number 5, I will try out the gold dots at the CFE Pistol loads. For this one, we're going to go with 6.7 and 7 grains of CFE Pistol using the 110 grain XTPs. So a quick loading note comparing the 110 grain XTPs versus the gold dots. The cannelure location in the gold dots are a little bit higher up, so there's going to be more bullet inside of the casing, so it could end up giving them a little bit higher pressure, and we'll see what the velocities end up getting me. I think honestly either would be fine using it in my 357 rated revolver, but again, that's for a future test. I have a cheap 38 special Taurus revolver, and none of these are going to be going into that revolver. That one's only going to get regular pressure rounds and factory plus P loads like those Fiocchi rounds that I tested out in the last video. And I think currently what I have... Hold on. So... looks like they're Hornady 38 Special FTX rounds. I believe these are actually the FTX light rounds that are like the 85 or 95 grain bullets that have the pink packaging that I guess are targeted towards women. But I figured at regular pressure 38 special velocities, I kind of want to go down to the lowest or the lightest bullet size I can get. And also, I don't really trust these all that much with my Taurus revolver. So this revolver kind of sucked when I got it. The double action must have been at least 12 pounds, and the single action was okay, I guess. I ended up putting a set of Galloway springs in it. It actually does pretty decent now. And you really don't need to know anything about revolvers to install those springs. I kind of figure this gun really isn't worth selling since it's so cheap to begin with, so I'm fine just, messing around with the internals. I did get a new grip for this because the factory grip just rips apart the webbing of my hand. I actually haven't shot it since I put this new Hogue grip on here. I might as well chrono the Hornady ammo and just to see how well I can shoot the revolver with the new grip. This has kind of been my go-to pocket carry revolver, and I really should test it out with the new grip. Loading up 38 Special is some of the easiest reloading you can do. I'm using the Lee dies because 38 Special isn't exactly a precision caliber. So, we raise the ram, screw in the resizing die until it hits the shell holder. Then we lock it down. And we start resizing. 38 Special is always pretty easy to resize. It's a low pressure round, so these all have the carbide sizing ring. You don't really need to use case lube on them, but sometimes for like really hot 44 Magnum loads, I'll still, lightly lube the cases up just to make it easier for the resizing process. I do like using the Lyman M dies to expand the case mouth of revolver rounds. It just seems to work the case mouth a little bit less. All right, so now it's time for powder. Normally I load up or pre-prepare about 50 to 100 rounds at a time. That's what I did before. I had 25 that were made up and needed to make another 20 to finish out all the loads that I'm planning on making up today. For primers, I'm using Remington 1.5 small pistol primers. For 38 Special, I don't think it really matters what primers you use. These ones are really cheap. I'm glad primer prices have gone back down. But I don't think it matters which one you choose. I just make sure I just don't, mix and match primers. So these are all going to be, any batch I reload, they're all going to be one set of primers. So next is powder. I always make sure to only keep one powder in my workstation at a time. And I always, want to double check to make sure I write down what my planned charge is. And I always only keep one weight of bullet at my station at a time, just so I don't make, there's no chances for any mistakes. And as soon as I put the powder in, I always put the bullet on the top just to make sure there's no way I can double charge anything. This ended up being a little bit more work than I meant it to be, and it's just going to be a miracle if I keep this all straight with the chronograph while I'm out at the range, but I'm going to go slow. I'm going to give it a shot, and hopefully everything works out. And we're back. So before I go into my reloads, I looked up those Hornady rounds in my Taurus revolver. They were the 38 Special Light Hornady Critical Defense 90 grain projectiles. So a few things. The new grip, the Hogue grip on my Taurus revolver works really great, but these 90 grain projectiles hit really low, so they're not really good for my Taurus with its non-adjustable sights. I got an average of 897 feet per second with an extreme spread of 27 and a standard deviation of 10, so not bad, but at only 90 grains, they gave an average kinetic energy of about 150 foot-pounds, which is pretty weak. I mean, they didn't have much recoil, but that's, I guess, the whole point of the thing. Now, since I made up 9 different reloads, I'm going to categorize them as the 125 grain XTPs, 110 grain XTPs, and 110 grain gold dots. And I guess before I say anything else, these all burned fairly clean, which makes sense since these were all right at the top range of 38 Special loads. So first, we have the 125 grain XTP rounds at max plus P loading. On the last video, I was using 5.3 grains of HP 38 and bumped it up to a max charge of 5.7 grains here, which gave me an average of 913 feet per second. Now, recoil-wise, this was feeling much closer to those 110 grain 357 rounds I tried in the last 38 Special video. The Fiocchi plus P 38 rounds that I was using before were only averaging about 890 feet per second, so I'm thinking these were probably a little overpressure. Each shot was pretty dang loud and had a ton of muzzle flash. Now, I'm fine shooting this out of my 357 LCR, but I really wouldn't want to try this out of my Taurus 38 Special revolver. I got an average of 232 foot-pounds of energy here with fairly manageable recoil, and my shots were hitting to point of aim, so this would actually be a fairly decent carry ammo for the 357 LCR. I was a little disappointed with CFE Pistol. At our max plus P charge of 6.4 grains, I got an average of 879 feet per second. That is at least close to the factory plus P round, so I'll say that, CFE Pistol is still a decent powder for this. With CFE Pistol, the recoil felt more like plus P or regular or plus P 38 special, so I think I would be okay using this through the Taurus. Much less muzzle flash than the HP 38. I think for the silver tips, I'm going to double check the cannular look. Actually, hold up. Okay, so yeah, the cannular location with the XTPs and the Winchester silver tips are pretty much in the same spot, but the Winchester silver tips are a little bit longer. So I'll plan on loading up a ladder in the future. I'll probably stick with brass for that ladder just because I don't want to dirty up my nice shiny 38 special nickel-plated brass. And actually, so I was looking at my 38 special brass and noticed that one of them was not like the other. I think I have a single case of 41 Magnum. So, as all reloaders know, that means I now have to purchase a 41 Magnum and start reloading for it. This is how they get you. Damn you, Starline. Next, we have the 110 grain XTPs, and once again, HP 38 is our best powder, and also once again, the max load of 6.3 grains gives me a whole bunch of low flashbangs. This did have noticeably less recoil than the 125 grain HP 38 rounds. Pretty good spread and standard deviation on this one with an average of 1,005 feet per second, which gives us an average of 246 foot-pounds of energy, so not bad. The charge from the last video was 6 grains, and that got us 931 feet per second, so I think 6.3 grains is a pretty good load. Accurate number 5 was a little disappointing, but CFE Pistol wasn't too bad. It had less muzzle flash than the HP 38 and felt a little more like just regular 38 special rounds. So I think that one might be an option for my Taurus revolver. Now for the gold dots, they were a bit slower across the board, but that was to be expected with the lower charges. Actually, one second. Okay, yeah, these are the short barrel versions of the gold dots. So these were designed to kind of expand at lower velocities. So I think the HP 38 load would be reasonable as I got an average of 926 feet per second, which gives us 210 foot-pounds of energy. They do show Unique as being the highest velocity powder, and I do have a bottle of Unique, and I guess there's no point in saving it. Powder exists to be shot. So I'm going to try to make a load in another video with Unique to see if that gives us our best 110 grain gold dot load. If I can get around like 950 feet per second, I think that would be perfect for these short barrel bullets. So from here, there's a few things I want to test out. Number 1, I want to make a ladder using the 125 grain Winchester silver tip bullets. I would also like to make up some 110 grain spear gold dots with Unique. I really don't want to use Alliant powders since they're pretty hard to get and are kind of crazy expensive right now. But I think if I want to get the most out of 38 Special, I really need to be using some of my Unique powder. Or I guess see if I can find a bottle of Power Pistol at not an insane price. I do know where I can get some Power Pistol, but I really, really don't want to buy any more pistol powders. I have enough. So I think we're just going to stick with Unique for now. As the Spear manual says, that's the highest velocity powder anyways. Number 2, I want to make up some light 357 Magnum loads using the 110 grain XTPs with a target velocity of 1,260 feet per second out of a 4-inch barrel to match up with the factory Winchester 110 grain Magnum loads I tried out. Since every book uses a comically long barrel, I'm going to have to kind of extrapolate some data or maybe try plugging some information into Gordon's reloading tool. Spear kindly does have short barrel data in their manual, but only for the 135 grain gold dots, as they don't recommend using the 110 grain gold dots in a 357 Magnum. I could try it, but I think I'll stick with 38 Special now for the 110 grain gold dots since they were already designed to, expand at lower velocities. And lastly, I want to try my hand at 125 grain snub nose 357 Magnum rounds using the XTPs and silver tips, with the plan to basically, load these up to whatever I think I can reasonably handle recoil-wise and still get follow-up shots. That one's going to be much more of a, vibes-based experiment. I will need to take really good notes with that just to kind of gauge the amount of recoil, and I'm not great at taking notes, but that one's for the future. Anyway, I had fun doing this. Thanks for watching.